Welcome to the Reality After Show covering MTV's The Challenge, Season 39, Battle for a New Champion, Episodes 3 and 4. It was a Supermax week, so you're getting a potentially Supermax podcast. It's your host, Alex Trias, always joined by my ride or die, Dan Montchal. And Dan, which one of us cut the watermelon?
It was looking a bit rough, but it was. How does one cut a watermelon?
How does one cut a watermelon? And you know what? We can just say Wayne did it.
Fucking Wayne.
Fucking Wayne, man. But we're here to talk about a supersized episode. They combined episodes 3 and 4. As we all know, they wanted to really get us to the chaos phase with the champions coming in. So what do you think about them pushing 2 episodes together, giving us a 2.5 hour watching on Wednesday night?
So personally, I didn't think that we needed to do that. I didn't think that we were off to necessarily the best start to the season, but I didn't think it was horrible. We don't need to go into the ratings talk again. That's clearly why they did it. I understand that. But I will say, now that it's over and that it's here, I'm excited to see the champs come back. And I'm excited to see some dailies where maybe it's more competition and against each other and not we're all going to compete as one team.
Absolutely. And who do you think's more excited to see Jordan next week, you or Kyland?
It's clearly me. But
are you sure?
I wasn't expecting the whole Kyland, his confessional prior to going into elimination. That one I didn't see coming. It's not on my bingo card.
I feel like he must listen to this podcast, where I'm pretty sure last season you made a big rant about how Jordan could win the season because he always has to go down into eliminations at a minimum and win in order to get to the final and win.
Well, I'm glad that he at least paid attention to that part. The part that he didn't pay attention to is, yes, Jordan also has to go, clearly has to go down into elimination. Kyland is skipping the part where outside of that, he has to be interesting TV. That's really, he's missing that aspect of it.
Ooh, right in the heart there.
It isn't. So I know there's some people that love Kyland. There's some people that don't like him. And a lot of it stems from his season of Big Brother. I didn't watch his season of Big Brother, so I have no preconceived notion when it comes with that. It's just a little bit hard that even when he has this built-in storyline of, you could have some drama or some interest with, hooking up with Melissa or at least being cuddle buddies, that he's still, all I can think about is the game 24/7. And that's really, I think, why we have the champs and the legends of what they are, is because it's not just that they're great competitors. They're also interesting TV, minus Casey.
So true. But let us break down these episodes. We're starting with episode 3. It's a matter of semantics. House is clearly divided between U.S. and international. Really, U.S. and the UK/Aussies is the true defining line there. And even then, it's a little hazy of who's actually wanting to be aligned with who. But we see the U.S. girls, particularly Nerys, being the spokesperson for them, feeling like they have a good control over the game, despite, losing a number with James coming back. But, everyone's so excited for James. James thinks his elimination showed that he's not a pushover. No, you can't just walk all over him. He thinks it could have potentially intimidated everyone. And then you cut to Jay going, running like that, I can't wait to run against you in the final.
That was perfect. Yeah, it was like, all right, James, you won. We'll give you credit for that. I think we gave you credit last week. But yeah, you're there, bud. That's about all I need to say about you.
I mean, he's not just there. He's also there, and he's apparently someone's champion. Despite not being a challenge champion, he is Mariah's champion. So this storyline sort of comes in, and I was hearing rumors here and there on social media about this season had a lot of hookups, a lot of people, having some fun. And the Mariah one sort of caught me off guard because I knew like they weren't official, and they make it clear in this episode that they weren't official. But there was something going on there back home. It's not the first time anyone has cheated on the challenge or thought about cheating on the challenge. So I found it very strange, the extreme reactions of the fan base, particularly towards Bananas, who's like decided to just like not be involved entirely in this season. But I guess people just gotta keep having Bananas' name in his mouth or their mouths, I guess. Yeah.
But I mean, can you blame Mariah? James is this huge household name. Like, how could you not be drawn
Oh
to
yeah,
someone
yeah.
like him?
Yeah, Mariah must have been to Essex.
Must have been.
Must have been to Essex. But I can sort of see it. They vibe well, and we know this is gonna be a thing moving forward for them. So good on you, Mariah. You have someone that you can spend some good quality time with in the house.
Yeah, and you always could have that interesting storyline because it isn't just with Mariah and James, but it's also with Michelle and Colum, that it generally does add some interest when people are hooking up, but they're from opposing alliances.
Oh, for sure.
Fingers
For
crossed.
sure. There's confliction there, and you see it with Kieran and Raven this episode, where they're kicking it. Doesn't stop Kieran from saying Raven's name. And pretty much being the sole reason why she gets thrown under the bus this episode. And that's where the next scene is. So we have Michelle talking with, all of her challenge exes that she has so far in one room, and talking about Raven and how last week's episode went down, how Kieran spilled to them that she was trying to protect Chauncey, and then she was also trying to protect all the UK guys by saying, like, don't vote for him. And, Raven's got to get her big girl pants on now because she's going to be in trouble.
Which I don't get why. I understand why members of the cast are a little upset because they're kind of like, Raven, what the fuck was that? But as far as from the fandom, it's like, I get this season, thus far has been missing the big names, and certainly we don't have the big names on the cast, but we have someone who's starting to play a little messy, and we really see a lot more of Raven's character, and kind of, I think we're just scratching the surface of the potential there. But even that, nope, she's getting shit all over as well, being like, what do you people want?
No, and that's exactly the point of this season. It's like, in my mind, it's fresh meat without having the veterans aligned with the fresh meat. It's like, and obviously they're established household names, but it's like we get to see this environment where you don't have any of the legends or the known commodities of the challenge having influence over what's going on within the house. They may have had some stuff prior in the pre-gaming and all that, but like once you're in the house, it's a different story. And I like seeing people that are getting a little more fleshed out, people that are a little messy, people acknowledging that they're messy and still deciding to be messy. And that's how we can truly determine, are these people that we could still want to invest in moving forward. And I was someone last season, I was very high on Raven. And even though she didn't have a great showing, she goes home very early. She gets her beaten out of her shoes by Olivia. It's like, but, I think she hits a lot of the boxes. She's attractive, she's a competitor, and she's willing to be messy. What else do I want to have on the challenge?
Exactly. I thought that, especially, we'll say at least for the episode 3, if we're splitting it into 2, she was the star of the episode, and I don't even think it's up for debate.
No, yeah, it was her episode. Absolutely. This is where we see Big T did become a qualified chef. That's why she took her brief hiatus. She wanted to figure out some life things. She becomes a chef, incorporating that old school Big Brother strategy of, well, if I cook for everybody, they can't possibly want to vote me out or put me in elimination. I'm feeding them. And I found it so funny because this episode and episode 4 in particular, there's so many things like kitchen stuff or drinks and everything that they just shove a generic challenge logo over it, so you don't know what the brands are. And they even did it for olive oil. It was like an olive oil bottle that like they slapped a challenge label over it.
I missed that one, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but it seems like she did a great job. Everyone loved the food, but everyone didn't love talking to Raven, so they didn't. And Raven's very aware. Raven's like, shit, I'm in trouble. And yeah, I may have fucked myself.
Yeah, there's always, I mean, you can always tell, and at least she, like you mentioned, she is self-aware of just being like, all right, we're all part of this group, but the people that I've been working with and talking with this entire game, suddenly they're avoiding me and not really having any conversation with me outside of Mariah a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I'd probably say Nerys still as well, because like you keep seeing it coming back to Nerys whenever there's a Raven conversation, and Nerys being like, I understand she's a problem, but like I also feel like she's valuable for us. Like she's still a number for us. I think there's just a lot of confliction there of like what's good for your game versus what was good for like your plan coming in, and like these friendships that you did make in between seasons. How willing are you to cutting them? And I think that a lot of people are struggling with that, but I think at this point you're in this phase of the game, in the control phase, by the way. Not chaos. Not chaos. That starts next week. But you're in this control phase of the game where it feels like you just don't want to be othered. So even when you have your groupings and you have your alliances, like end of the day, you don't want to stick your neck out for people, because then you could just become the next person. Like we see it here is with everything that happened with Raven during the second round of this game. You have people like Jay and all the guys going like, well, between this and what happens later on in episode 3, like this should make it a girls' day. They're the drama right now. We can just put our hands back.
What I'm really curious about is, was the move that Raven made last week this huge thing that, you know, the Americans felt betrayed with? Or was it just more of Raven was at the bottom of the ride or die alliance, and so there was always going to be something that she was going to do that was going to push her into that spotlight, which I think it had more to do with that than everything that happened back in episode 2. Like, well, I don't think they necessarily would have outright targeted her as early as they did, but I think it does become abundantly clear, especially when you see like the relationship that Nerys has with Olivia and Mariah and people like that, that Raven's clearly on the bottom.
Oh yeah, I think it's a combination of everything you said, but also it's just the fact that because of her actions in episode 2, it like comes across as you can't even be a reliable number for us because you're just going to do what you want. And we're going to, you know, like you guys slap on the hand for that. Here's your discipline. You need to go down in the sand and prove yourself, essentially. But the person that she is going to be proving herself against, under-edited and robbed by us, is Huey, who, like, and this is where we said it at the beginning of the season. We said it during Challenge World Championships. Like, you're setting up some of these people to fail because they just may not be able to get past the language barrier at this time. And I think Huey is someone who, like, everyone loved Huey. It was like pretty clear that everyone liked her. She's a very nice girl. You know, it's like that's what everyone said. That's what she says when she's leaving. Like, I can't help but just being a nice person, and that's what I'm gonna be. But like, her really only true connection past that point is Horacio, because Horacio can also speak Spanish. And you see that type of cultural bond made between them, where like it gets to a point where Horacio feels a responsibility of like protecting her.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice scene, and it's every time Huey's on screen, it's just she seems so nice. She has such this bubbly personality that how do you not like her? Like I
She's
just
always
don't know.
smiling.
Yeah.
And you know what? Screw her. Well, I hope his ex-boyfriend for apparently cheating on her while she was filming.
That I did not know.
Yeah, that's what's been going through the grapevine. Is she was cheated on, and then everyone's doing their fan theories or fan fiction theories of really it was always meant to be Huey and Horacio as the next couple. And I could see it.
You could see it, but it was also because you saw the comments that came from like Nerys that were made more in jest this week that were on social media, being like, it was weird to see her now boyfriend Horacio flirting with someone else. But I don't really think that that's how it started, and maybe there was a lot more that we didn't see. But I
Right.
just
I
think
think
for
that's more
her,
of
it
it.
was the comfort zone, and it was just, this is someone that I know has my back. I can be myself about, and also can fully understand what I'm saying. Because while her English is really good, it's always going to be more difficult when it's your second language.
Oh yeah, and I think it was already improved upon from when she filmed on World Championships. Like
100%.
she like I never had an issue understanding what she was saying.
Mm-mm.
But that connection between her and Horacio, and like that separation of the game, the like having that source of home and comfort. Um, Melissa probably wishes that Kylan was more like that instead of just cuddling while talking strategy.
Well, I mean, you really got to think about the numbers, how they break down, what's best for your game. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to
yeah.
sleep. But we can't sleep right now because it's hot tub time. And really, the main thing of hot tub time is to talk about all the people that are hooking up right now. You have Raven and Kieran, who Kieran is just, they're just kicking. They're just kicking it. You have Michelle and Callum. And Callum, is a cheater and is trying to save face somehow in his confessionals of like, no, like he really truly likes this girl back home or that he was kicking it with. But it's on the challenge for Michelle being there. Yeah, Melissa and Kylan somehow the replacement of her daughter. um
It's a little weird, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, hey, you
And then
got
you
to
have
find your
then you have
comfort
James.
somewhere.
Then you have James and Mariah. A household name, and Mariah has to attach herself to the household name of Essex.
I mean, yeah, it
But don't,
starts with the J, close enough. And I just
yeah,
think that, we never gave Wendell enough credit back at Winners at War for who knew that all these years later, we'd still just say they're just kicking it.
they're just kicking it. But don't worry, the only person not kicking it is Horacio. He's not kicking it with anybody. He's just staying out of it. Cue shot of Nerys.
Yep, that was well done by the editors.
I love them just like pounding it over our heads. We all know it's impossible not to know if you're going into this watching this season. But I think it's fun. But this leads to the drama of Berna has this like open spirit, dancing weird. Apparently, at one point, not shown, and why some people were giving her side eye was like she was doing that weird dancing while holding a giant speaker over the hot tub. That if you dropped it into that water, not good things would happen. Of course, I would think. I'm not a scientist, but
No, you would think that that wouldn't be great. This was a weird scene. I'm conflicted how I feel about it.
yeah. So like the issue here is, I think it's again a language thing where Berna feels like her feelings are hurt because she feels that they are sort of like belittling her by like side eyeing her, like they're snickering, like, oh, they're making fun of me because of the way that I'm dancing. So in her mind, she feels like she's feeling bullied, but she's not trying to call them bullies, but she's feeling bullied.
Mhm.
But by confronting them and confronting them the way that you are, and by saying you are bullies, she's trying to say, I felt bullied. I felt bullied, not that you are bullies, but it comes out as you are bullies. And Melissa really just like that was a trigger point, and she starts screaming right back at Berna up to the point of so much hatred towards this woman that she's like, throw me into elimination so I'll drag your ass into that sand because I won't be leaving. And yeah, it's a weird conversation, but like I understand it more when you see the next scene where like she's out with Emmanuel, and Emmanuel's like being a good friend and a good ally to Bruno by like just like trying to like calm her down. explain like in a very calm manner of like why people are feeling the way that they are, why the language decision that she made was like the incorrect one, quote unquote. So it's like
Mhm.
she's a very like she's an enigma almost, Berna. Like I still don't know what to think about Berna.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard the part that you just mentioned where she was dancing with the speaker, so maybe that makes more sense because when I first saw it, I had a few things that, and it's where I wish I maybe we got more of that or we heard more from Melissa and Big T of, oh yeah, like they were definitely looking at her weird. Because I think it's easy to, if you already feel like you're kind of on the outs or you're ostracized, that, oh, those people must be talking about me, or the looks are definitely generated my way. When I think if you're just in a large group with, you have your friend there, like Melissa and Big T are, they could have been laughing or looking at just about anyone, but it's easy to always think that it's about you because in everyone's head, they're the main character of the story, which is,
Absolutely.
so I was a little conflicted that, okay, maybe she was justified in feeling that way if it was clearly directed at her. But when you're in that large group, they could have been laughing and talking about pretty much anyone else in the house. Like, we don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like we truly don't know. Like the more that we hear from people post shows, like the more that you have to like understand that production's trying to show the story that they want to show. There's other things happening. Um, but I do love that during all of this, we get Kylan who I saw like a tweet saying like, this is why Kylan sucks for the show because we want the drama, but then you have Kylan in confessional over something that has nothing to do with him going like, but I might get the fallout of this because I'm hooking up with Melissa. So like I need Melissa to calm down for me and my game.
Which, once again, going back to it, everyone's the main character in their own head. That it's like, Kylan, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But you see it throughout the episode because at the very end of episode 4, when Huey goes in and picks Kylan, Melissa is just like, oh, was a direct shot at me. I'm like, no, I don't think that had anything to do with it.
No,
But of
no,
course, you're going to think that everything goes back to, well, it must be me. It has something to do that's going to affect my game.
right, right. But this gets us to the daily, and this daily is called Control Tower, where we have 16 of the 22 of them. 16 of them will be in the buggies, 8 as drivers who are driving buggies that have numbers on them, and 8 passengers who, at one point during the game, have to switch the plus and minus sign fully. Full stop. And then you have 6 people that are doing math, but only 2 of them are really doing math, and 4 of them are up on the control tower, but only 1 of them is actually yelling directions. Anyway, you're doing math problems. You can still win $50,000. They win $50,000.
Yeah, we don't need to spend much time talking about this challenge because this one wasn't awesome, is I guess the nicest way to put it.
I
Because
mean, all of us could do well at it. Like that's the story.
it's not all that complicated, but it's just, this was a weird challenge to have with that many people because it really came down to 3 people. 4, I
Yeah.
mean, even if you want to say 4, that it was Ed, Kylan, Jay, and Michelle. And outside of that, everyone was pretty much just there.
Right. Like you have Raven who's like, oh, I'm under such a microscope. I need to really show my value. And her value was using her hand to try to signal to Huey. Yeah, Berna is like, I need to show my value, and the only time she has to do anything is to help move the plus and minus sign. So it's like, what are you truly bringing in? Which is like sort of goes into the episode title, like it's just semantics, because it's like this challenge was designed to give them $50,000. Again,
Mhm.
this is bearing in mind that you would have people that actually understand math, or at least challenge math, because you don't follow PEMDAS during the challenge. But when you're truly just doing plus or minus, and they give you 3 numbers, and you know that you are using only one number once, like I feel it's pretty easy to get the job done, because like they said they had 30 minutes to do all 4 equations and they were halfway done with 20 minutes left. And
Yeah.
apparently just flipping the minus and plus sign, they wanted to make us feel like, oh, suddenly everything's falling apart because they can't subtract before adding now. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it was really weird because the math, it wasn't all that difficult to figure out. But even if you weren't necessarily great at math, this is more just a trial and error. You just keep flipping those
Yeah,
numbers around, you're eventually going to get it.
right, right. And like, Michelle Beast being in charge, so good on Michelle.
She loves to give
Um,
direction
yeah, loves
or
to give
speak.
direction. uh And then the only thing of note was we truly see the trust between Horacio and Huey. I'm like, you were driving a car, but
But that
they
trust,
tried to make a point of Huey having a hard time understanding Michelle because of the language gap. And I'm like, well, I don't feel like we truly did. Like we saw some pauses, but like not anything. Like there really wasn't anything with this challenge. There really wasn't.
no, as soon as they started making that focal point, I was like, we're seeing a lot of Huey. This is probably not great for her.
Yeah, I was very sad. I was very happy to see Huey. Very sad that she was leaving this episode. But that moves the pot to 356,000. Um, and this is where the vote becomes strictly a social vote. And so we start seeing people mending fences. We see Melissa apologizing to Berna, Berna apologizing back. They squash their beef. They really talk about the bully thing, and Melissa just be like, hey, if you have a problem with something I do, just like pull me aside and have a conversation with me. We both don't need to instantly go into yelling at each other. Like, there's other ways to go about this. So that beef once again squashed. Episode 1, Berna was in hot water. She apologizes, then suddenly she's okay. Episode 3, she gets in hot water again, apologizes again at deliberation, is okay again. Is this the arc we're going to continue to see for Berna?
It could be, because this must have really been squashed here, because I know I read, so I don't know how much of it is true because it's clearly all after the fact, but I believe it was somewhere Berna said that had she been the one that was nominated this episode, she wasn't calling down Melissa. She was calling down Nerys.
Right. Right.
But
Like,
that's, I guess, you can keep doing that to an extent with Berna, but if Berna's going to kind of, who knows if she's going to be here for long or not. I'd like to see more depth to her game and to her personality, other than just kind of being the misunderstood one.
yeah. But here we go to the bar, and Huey loves the bar. That is a note I have on here, and I'm like, what? The bar loves Huey. We all love Huey. This then leads to a conversation between Michelle, Callum, where like Michelle's essentially saying like I typically wait for the other shoe to drop. Like there's always something, but with Callum right now there's nothing. I'm just enjoying having fun. And Callum's like,
that shoe's coming, girl. I don't know when it's going to drop. I don't even know
it
if
was
it's
starting
on.
to in episode 4.
Yeah.
But this is where Emmanuel now like again is like coaching Berna. Like, I'm hearing Raven's name. If people come to you, just apologize to them. It's because of just like how you were, like your personality at the beginning of the game. Just be fine, be cool. Say like, I'm not coming after you. Why would you come after me if I'm not coming after you? There's other people. Like, oh, it's just like the basic levels of like helping them out in a drunk environment. So we're starting to see like little snippets here and there of Emmanuel like showing that he did come into this season like, I think like fully grasping the game. Whereas like the first season go around, it was like, I'm a team player. I'm gonna hook up with a couple girls and go as far as I can. This time I feel like he is being more purposeful with what he's doing around the game.
Yeah, I was glad to see more of him this week, because the more we kind of see him on screen, we're like, okay, like maybe he doesn't have that pop of a personality that, lights off the screen, but he definitely has a good understanding of the game and someone that isn't on anyone's radar, despite the fact that it's already been shown how good of a competitor he is. So the more that you see him, the more I'm like, all right, Alex could have been onto something with that being your winner pick, because I think he's in a really good spot. And unless it's an outright physical elimination against someone like James, I don't know how many eliminations where he could be called down where I'd think, ooh, he might be in trouble. Like, I think he's always going to be the favorite going into most situations. But as it is now, he's not even being looked at, considered as an option. Granted, early, but I think he's in a really good spot in this game moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And then we see more people like just saying like how they're unsure of Raven. She talks to a lot of people. She's a crack in the alliance because of what happened during the Chauncey round. But then we also see Jay having a conversation with Michelle about Callum, and we knew that he isn't a fan of Callum at the start of the season. I think it's now starting to like boil over a little more because he's like, I need Michelle for my game. Callum is a distraction to that. So I need to like get into the middle of it, even though really it shouldn't be his business.
No, but I think it's also, while I understand Michelle's frustration here, I also get it from Jay's side of just being, because it's
Protective.
normal, it's protective, not only protective because he's clearly close with Michelle, but it's also when people start dating or hooking up or just a genuine interest in someone else, it's easy. You see it in, real life, not just on shows like The Challenge, that they become more the priority. And Jay, I think, is just looking for the reassurance here, being like, despite what you have going on there, like, we're still good as number ones, right? And I think that's what he was looking for, especially at a conversation at the bar, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, but like obviously that's supposed to like lead us into something that should happen in the near future. I have to assume it's just the Callum of it all just exploding and his game like going into flames over like I think like as soon as it's revealed to Michelle that Callum has this other person, then it's over. That's a wrap. Jay was right. She goes back to Jay. They send Callum out. Like, you wash your hands of it.
He's just talking to his cousin. It's not a big deal.
It's just his cousin. um, yeah, and then we have more people talking about Brenna. This leads to deliberation where Raven tries to pitch for herself. It's not nearly as bad as Jessica and Chauncey's efforts, but it's very one note, very monotone. It doesn't feel like impassioned at all. And so it sort of falls on deaf ears. Whereas like Brenna's briefly brought up, but like Brenna's just like says again, like I am working on the issues that you guys have told me about. I understand them. It's hard for me, but I'm trying to be better. And Raven leaves this sort of feeling like, oh man, I'm probably going in. And clearly I don't know how to play this game, and I'm not even a rookie. I'm like, you are.
Pretty much are, yeah.
You were there for 3 episodes.
Well, and I think you need to do a few seasons like when they used to do the gauntlet. It was you were a rookie if it was your first season or your second season.
Yeah, you're not a fresh new baby born on the challenge, but you still haven't walked. You're still crawling.
She's about to walk. We're getting there.
She's about to walk. But at this point in time, like that's why I hate. I wish it would go back to. I understand sports. Your rookie year is your rookie year, and then the next season you're not a rookie anymore. But like you're sort of in that weird in between stage of like you're not a rookie, you're not a veteran yet. Like you're just a player. But like with the challenge, especially if you don't do well to start off your challenge career in terms of just like the longevity of it, you're still a rookie. You're still a rookie until like you've proven otherwise.
Yeah, I think you almost need like a full season of episodes, whether that's split up over a few. Like I would consider Horacio not a rookie because he did his first season the whole way through and went into elimination, kept proving himself. But if you just went in, like you said, episode 3 and then lost, I don't know if it is until you win an elimination, until you win some dailies, which I guess technically Raven did win a daily. but you just need to see some more longevity to really take off that rookie label. But it's also hard in a season like this where in most seasons, all these people would still kind of be looked at as rookies outside of a group of 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah, like outside of Olivia, Horacio, Michelle, Big T, Melissa, and
even
Jay.
Jay. Yeah.
Jay was officially like, I'd say veteran status as he was going through Ride or Dies. Because
Correct,
like he hasn't had a long career. Like all of his seasons, he doesn't make it to the halfway point. But like by the time you get him in Ride or Dies, like you're familiar with him. He's had some sort of body work. He has won something. He has he beat a rundown CT before CT decided to remotivate himself in an elimination. Like he had lost to Leroy, but it was extremely close. Like he has these other things. Then he wins the challenges in Ride or Dies that eventually gets the target on his back. He gets removed. You're a veteran. Michelle's a veteran at this point. Melissa and Big T have done their time. They're veterans. Like the rest of the people aren't, like most of them are in their second season.
Yeah.
So like you had to have done a body of work up to that point. So like Olivia, we would consider a veteran. Horacio, we would consider a veteran. Nerys, I would say borderline.
I don't
and
think
if I'm
she's
calling
quite there yet, but close.
Yeah, it's like, and if I'm calling Nerys borderline, that going in, because I know she does the work behind, in between the seasons, like the political game, the social game of it all. So like I have to give her credit there. But if I'm calling her that, then like almost all these other people, you can make a case for Emmanuel just because of the type of season he was in. He sort of had to go for a lot of stages, but like he also lost to Devin in eliminations. It was a puzzle, but still, all this to say that a lot of these people I would still consider a rookie.
Agreed.
And that's not like a demeaning word to it. It's just what's your experience level on this show, not your other stuff. On this show, you're a rookie.
Yeah, well, we can't all be James.
No, we can't all be James, but this is where we get sort of the contention that bleeds into episode 4. And it's the idea of, once again, burning votes. All the girls want to burn votes on guys, all separate guys. So a guy would not be voted in, but they want the blood on the guy's hands. Partially the reason was, like, I guess Nerys was saying, like, you don't want the guys to have control, but you're giving them control by letting them pick whoever they want. You're hoping that it forces them to focus on at the guys heading into the next episode, next round. I don't know. It's like the logic behind it, I felt like I semi understood, but ultimately I'm like, I don't think it truly makes sense unless you have like a legitimate excuse to burn a vote. And it's not an excuse to just be like, but I'm scared that Raven will call me down.
That's how it comes across, is it's more of the scared tactic. But, who knows? Because you see it a little bit even more in episode 4. But I think where this really brings it is the Corey of it all. I loved Corey's thought behind it. I loved saying, hey, if they're going to give us the power, we can do whatever we want. Where I stopped loving it is when he voiced this to the women of the show.
No, I love that. I love that. Be a messy villain, Corey. Be a messy villain. Like,
as far as TV, this was great. But as far as for your game, like, all right.
I loved it. But like, yeah, if you're gonna push out a narrative of like, hey, we should discipline the girls, like, one, make sure the other guys are actually on board with that, and two, if you gotta say a name, you gotta vote it. Especially like a better performing player, because you need to have justification there, and the justification just can't be, oh, we're gonna throw Zara in because the girls were too scared to put Raven in. Like, you need a little more tact.
No, but I did at least like that. That's where his thought immediately went, of being, hey, if they're going to give us control, then we can do whatever we want, which is ultimately, the way it was being edited, you knew that wasn't what was going to happen, but I thought to really shake up the game, I thought it would have been a very fun move to see if the guys just all came out and voted a different way.
Right. I was sort of hoping for that, but we don't get that. We get to the arena. 12 all the guys and Raven vote for Raven. Um, thank God for Huey next episode for not just voting himself in.
I was going to say, what do you, I think that just told, that gave me my answer right there, is people just voting for
I get
themselves. But if I'm the one that's going in, I feel like you can almost use that to start playing with people there, because I get where they're thinking, oh, well, whoever they vote for, maybe who they're going to call out. If that is, and if you're able to come back in the game, then use the vote when it's the house vote. Just throw a random shot at someone just to make them think and put a little bit of fear in them. And then when it actually comes down there, don't pick them, pick someone else. Just keep everyone on their toes.
That's exactly what I was just thinking as you were saying that. It's like throw in a random name, a name that like maybe it's someone intimidating. Like maybe you're like, oh, I'm gonna say Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
And then like everyone else does the vote, they don't burn because they're like, oh well, if she's gonna pull down Olivia, like we're in the clear. We're in the clear. She's going against someone that she has no chance to get. And then like you do all the votes, and then you just go like, oh, Colleen, come on down here.
That's right.
And
Colleen's
like just
there.
like you just like push that aside, that you almost like blindside these people who are been mentally preparing to go in, but then you say a name that sort of like puts them at ease for a moment just to then pull someone down. And like of course you're gonna have the ramifications of like saying someone's name, but like ultimately you're on the bottom anyway.
Why
It's
not?
evident by your own alliance voting you in, or saving their asses by not voting for you but knowing you were going in. And TJ pretty much says that. It's like this is a weird strategy if like you wanted to keep Raven safe. Raven, come on down. And Raven ends up picking Huey. Where we do see next episode Kyland and some people were like, why didn't they pick Colleen? Which then like it starts putting the pieces together for people of like, if they weren't aware of it yet, like the ride or die girls are sticking together. The ride or die girls are like instilling fear into Raven essentially into not picking one of them. So that's why Huey gets picked instead of Colleen, if those were the two people that she felt the best competing against. So this gets us to Dirty Deeds, which is there's 3 objects that are buried in a mound of dirt or sand, whatever you want to call it. You have to race into the zone, dig up the objects, and race them to your goal. You can wrestle and do whatever you need within the circle, but once you reach the outer circle, you're in the safe zone. You can place your item in. You win by getting 2 of the 3 items each round. First to win 2 complete rounds wins. And we start this off with like you have the ride or die girls for the most part clearly backing Raven, and then you have Horacio really putting it in for Huey, like speaking in Spanish the entire way to help Huey not have to listen through a different her second language to try to figure out what he's trying to say. Native tongue help do that. Huey has a great first round. Like she's fast, she's quick, she's efficient. Raven's not paying attention to her, and Huey wins that first round. And then Raven decides to lock in, and the other 2 rounds, Raven just dominates Huey. And I just think like Huey was not ready to go into that mental zone that Raven was, and Raven was going in through like a pure like I almost like survival instinct of like I need to do this for me. I flopped my first time around in this game. I did not win an elimination. I need to win an elimination here. Like this means the world to me to be in this moment. I can't leave yet.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Huey has that zone that Raven locks into. Maybe she does, but she's such a nice person. It wouldn't surprise me if that's just not a gear that she has, because it's not the way that she's wired, which is fine. It's just unfortunately she's sweet for reality TV, but it'd be shocking to see her win a show like this.
Let's randomly, for no reason in particular, put her on House of Villains season 2.
That would be phenomenal because everyone going around, 'cause as we've seen, most of these people don't watch other reality shows. And Huey just walking around being so nice and bubbly and cheerful, and everyone behind her back being like, what the fuck did she
Right.
do?
Put
to
someone
come
who's
in
not
this-"
put like one person, like it's like Joe Schmo,
Yeah.
or like jury duty, just like throw someone in there that just like does not belong in the equation, but no one else realizes that they don't belong there, and just see how long that person lasts. I'm for it. I'm
No,
for it.
that'd be
Sign me
great.
up.
Yeah, because everyone would be so confused. Like, what did she do? Is she always just
But
not this nice? Like, what's going on here?
in terms of her game, because this is what wraps up episode 3. Um, Obviously, yeah, Huey is a very attractive woman, very nice woman. Um, didn't have like the best like challenge showings, but like she did her stuff. Like in this season, like anything that they asked her to do, she did. And she didn't really have that many issues on that side of it. I don't know if she has that mentality of being a challenge
Competitor.
champion.
Hmm.
But she does, I think, have that mentality of like, especially if she's single, I feel we could get she's a fun, bubbly personality that I think is a good contrast to people that go in like a Kyland, who's like
Hmm.
very game minded. His
Oriented.
confessionals are game minded. His actions in the game are always game minded. And then you have someone like Huey's just like, I'm here living my life in this house, and we also do challenges.
And
Like I think she's a good piece of the puzzle for like when you're constructing a cast. So I do believe that she's someone that I'm like I wouldn't mind seeing again.
no, I wouldn't mind seeing her game. And look at the company that she was just put in. On the way out, TJ says, you might be, you not might be, but you're the sweetest person we've ever had on the show. When's the last time he made a statement like that? Kenny Clark, you are the nicest person we've ever had on the show. So
He
what
didn't have
company
a,
to
and I
keep?
hope to see you in the future though.
Did
She
he not
got it.
have that? Oh
Kenny
yeah, that's
definitely
it.
did
Kenny
not get
definitely did.
that.
Yeah, no. You are right there. Yeah.
He definitely did not get that. But this leads us into episode 4, and we come back to the house, and um, Raven is hoping she's now seen as trustworthy because she understands that why she was thrown in. She did not pick someone from her alliance to go in, and she won. So like she may have not taken a number off of the other side, quote unquote, but like she didn't take away a number from her ride or die girls. Um, and so she's like, I hope I'm trustworthy now. And then you cut to a confessional from Corey being like, yeah, but Raven's shown that she's not trustworthy. And you know what? I'm still bitter about all the women burning votes.
Yeah, Corey can't let that go. But we see that. I don't want to say all the time, but it isn't the first time we've seen it. Is, oh, I'm going to go into elimination and prove to everyone that I am on their side. And it's just like, I understand what you're saying, and that's a great thought. But when have we ever seen someone go into elimination, win, and the rest of the house being like, oh, you're right, Raven is so on her side? It's almost, she needs to try to find a new alliance if she wants to move deep into this game, or unless she's okay pretty much just being a mercenary going in and knocking people out. Because in a game like the challenge, you break your word, you go against your alliance once, it doesn't matter what your next 10 actions are. They're always going to remember that one time where you
Yeah.
didn't do what you were supposed to.
The one time you went against us, even if it wasn't like physically us, but it was towards us, you will have to re-earn your stripes. And I think that might be her future in this game. But and that might be an interesting story to watch. It's like her in this like back against the wall, consistently being thrown in on a girl's day and just like winning and just
Mm-hmm.
keeps winning. And that would be even more impressive in this next phase of the game where, as
In
we see, like
chaos.
it's gonna be the women or the champions like that they're facing off against. So like, if Raven goes down and she like beats a Tori or a Kara or Laurel, like or even Casey, like any of these people, like because I know we joke about Casey, but Casey only time she's lost in elimination was because Kenny was involved. And,
Wow, I don't think it's fair to put it all on Kenny,
oh
but
no, I'm putting it all on Kenny.
but no, I mean everyone that's coming in, I want to say
They're not unbeatable. Like
no, they're
that,
not
are they
unbeatable.
huge? Are they titans in their own way? Absolutely. But like, and you know that they're going to be brought in, or they should be brought in on something that the challenge producers are like, this is something that these champions are like known for, or it's a stronger attribute to them. Because it's like, I'm not bringing in Brad to do a puzzle.
Oh
He could do it, but that's not what he's known for.
no,
Like,
I think that'll be really interesting seeing how that could potentially change the dynamics in the house. Because you think of the 8 people that are coming, that will be coming into the game, to beat them, especially if you're going to accommodate and make it something all of their forte. As you mentioned, Casey only has that one elimination loss. She's always done really well. Tori, sure, we've seen her lose some eliminations, but overall, she's performed really well in eliminations. Cara is an elimination beast. She's gone down there time and time again. Laurel, one of the most dominant females the show has ever seen. Same with like Jordan and CT on the male side. And then Darrell, obviously no slouch. He hasn't done that great lately, but I mean, we're still not that far removed from him just bodying Zach in a pole
oh
wrestle
yeah.
and beating him. And Brad, I mean, Brad's the only person that's ever beat Landon in an elimination. So definitely some heavy hitters that are coming in. So I'd be curious to see if someone's able to go down and beat these champions. Does it change the way that they're viewed and the strategy of the game moving forward? Being like, well, I don't want to go down against
Yeah,
Raven.
or is it just more like, it's like not self-fulfilling prophecy, but you're causing this to keep happening to yourself because you keep winning. So it's like you have the benefit of winning. So like say they keep throwing Raven down there and Raven keeps winning, it'd be like, well, why are we gonna throw any of each other in unless like something happens in the house that you're like, oh no, we actually do need to try to eliminate someone. You'd be like, oh, we'll just keep sending Raven in, especially if there's something involving the money with this, where like I think that's like a rumor out there that
no. So on the we were talking about a little bit before. It's at one of the commercial breaks when you see the sneak peek at next episode. And so everyone knows Jordan's going to be on next week's episode. And when it comes out, it does say not only are you fighting for your spot in the game, but if the champion wins, they leave with $10,000 from their prize pot.
okay, gotcha. And you know what? Now that makes sense why in episode 4 they like out of nowhere decide like to police them into forcing it to be a guy's day. Because if their intention was always to have Jordan be the first person, they wouldn't do that in a situation where there was more men than women still in the game. So you needed it to even out. Which is curious what they would have done if the first 2 eliminations were women. Like, would they have made the round episode 3 and 4 guy eliminations by force, or like was there still a potential for it to be sort of free flowing? Because to our knowledge, they weren't told, like they were told you're eliminating people, only one person wins. But in terms of the champions, we'll get back to it at the end of recapping episode 4 because I am curious like what we think. If you gave them like something that they're known for, something that is a strength of theirs,
don't give Jordan what
eliminations they would be.
But no, that's a fun topic. Let's definitely circle back to that.
Yeah. So we then get that thing I talked about earlier, Kylan and Melissa talking about why was Huey picked over Colleen, and it's Kylan started putting the pieces together that Colleen's with the Ride or Die girls and the US squad in general, which I mean, like if you're Kylan, that shouldn't matter because you're also part of the US alliance, sort of. Then you get Horacio and Zara talking, and Zara's holding like a bit of a vendetta over Corey because she ended up being the name that Corey was throwing around to the guys to try to throw in, and he's a fucking snake.
That bastard Corey.
And I'm like, thank you, Zara. This is the energy I needed. I need you to have a vendetta.
Need to have a vendetta, because she's one that up until this point of, it's episode 4, we
She
really
hasn't
haven't
had a
seen much
story.
of her. She's had no story, and her story on global championships was more of she was partnered with Wes, so it's clearly going to be more Wes
Yeah,
centric.
her story was that she was partnered with Wes and that she was a very good competitor.
Mm-hmm.
That was the story. So we get to see her having like a little bit of angst here, and then we get a random thing of Corey and Asaf saying that they're right in the middle together, like they're best buddies, and currently that only leads off to Corey throwing a vote on Asaf, and Asaf's like, "Oh, that's all cool, brother."
We're buddies.
So yeah, they're buddies. They're buddies. Allies in more ways than one. But we get to the daily here, and it's under control. And if you want to be a challenge champion, not naming names to some fun people from our past, you gotta be able to swim.
Yeah, well, at least majority of this cast is comfortable in the water, which I feel like it's a higher percentage than it is most seasons.
Yeah. No, like you didn't see anyone like completely flailing when it came to swimming. Like it was a far distance. So for the challenge, there's a bunch of puzzle pieces attached to buoys, but the puzzle pieces are at the base, like far underwater. You all are, or they all had to swim out there, collect all the puzzle pieces. There's more puzzle pieces than people. There's 25 pieces, so 4 people have to do it at least a second time. Everyone has to attempt. You can't help someone until everyone else has like, or you have finished, even though they made it seem like everyone else had to finish before you could help Nuris. Anyway, each puzzle's worth $5,000. You then have to both complete the puzzle, bring the puzzle back to like that main
buoy.
What it was not even a buoy, it's a platform.
Yeah.
Platform, and get everyone onto that base platform, hit the button within 15 minutes to win $50,000.
And I personally liked that. So it's 2 parts to it. So it's what we saw in the episode where Nerys said that she's wearing her Scubanelli necklace. And then I think my favorite was saw someone sent a comment to her and she retweeted it being like, "Yeah, I got my scuba necklace on." And someone just commented like, "Girl, you're going to drown."
Well, yeah, so they're talking out what they want to do, and Berna and Nerys are the only ones who like say like we can swim. We just aren't, we know ourselves, we are not the most competent swimmers. But we will give it a go. Like we aren't dead weight. So the guys are trying to determine which 4 of the guys will do a second time, and Huey just keeps interjecting. It's annoying some of the people because they're like, we get it, Huey. You want to show that you're important, but like, let the people who are very good do what they need to do. But Huey's someone who just always needs to have his voice heard.
Yeah, I think where Huey really struggled here is he wanted to be, involved, show his value. But unfortunately, every time where he was really speaking up, he wasn't adding any value to the overall plan, which really kind of sets off the rest of the episode.
Right. So we have some like showcase people when it comes to swimming, like Zara and her coat hanger shoulders are doing very well. Ed, who's in his words built like a gorilla but swims like a shark, and you know what? Like Ed was impressive in the water. Yeah, he's Aquaman by the end of it. He's getting a lot of nicknames, as they say in the episode. I think they say it's his 3rd nickname in the house. But Ed does well. Corey's sort of now.
You said Jay also does well.
Yeah, Jay also does well, and like you hear it from Corey because like Corey was like I want to do well enough where if I can be the first person with my puzzle piece, like that means I got there first, completed it first. Like it helps me test out how strong I am next to the field. So he's sort of intimidated by how well Jay and Ed did to start this off, and Zara and Emmanuel. Like a lot of people are doing very well. The main people struggling are Nerys and Melissa. But then Melissa gets the fear of God of potentially going into elimination, that she gets her mom's strength to collect her piece. So it's really only Nurys struggling. So Lifeguard Ed, another nickname, comes in to save the day, gets her piece for her.
Gets that Baywatch scene.
Yeah, Baywatch is right out of Baywatch, even though you're not running in slow motion in the water in a red jumpsuit. I don't need to see that though.
No,
or not from Ed.
It was no, for the most part, I thought they did everyone clearly other than Nurys as well. But it also, I gotta say, outside of some of the people that did it multiple times, I didn't think it was all that impressive, because especially when they give you that rope, all you need to do is go down and hold your breath maybe 15 seconds, but the rope allows you to pull yourself down.
Yeah.
So you don't actually need to dive down. Like, this was relatively easy.
It's no different from Survivor Challenge, which is like, I love the shade Michelle and like the lying that Michelle did to the other girls of like, it's not that deep. It's easy. You just have to pull a rope. Stop being a bunch of babies. It seemed like the only other part, which I think was negligible at the end of the day, was it looked like the pieces they weren't pieces that could just like be put on any of the 5 spaces. Like there's probably like little tiny changes in like the holes there where you had to put in the right spot. But ultimately they do get all of it done with 3 seconds left. If we want to believe the challenge.
Well, it wasn't 2, so they're on to us. They've been listening. They're changing it up.
I know. It's like I've been thinking about it ever since Challenge USA, and World Championships. They've been changing it up on us now. I don't know what to believe anymore. Give me the live footage, and we'll count. But they do that. They win their $50,000. Their prize pot is now capped, to our knowledge, at $406,000. So they made in total with these 4 challenges $106,000 in addition to the 300 base, and they lost $94,000 from the first 2 challenges. So could be worse. You get to leave this with a little bit of momentum with back-to-back challenge wins as a group. You get some good team morale. It really doesn't matter because you're about to go into an independent game anyway. But this is where he says that it is a men's day. TJ's like, this is going to be a men's game. We need our men's elimination. We need to even things up. And this leads to Big T's coming out party. So, very nice scene, very challenge of like embracing the lifestyles of their contestants and like showing that it's okay to like not be straight. For lack of a better term, like you're allowed to be you. You should be comfortable being you. But when you are comfortable doing it, and this is Big T's way of saying she was now comfortable to like show that she's, I would assume bisexual, but I don't want to put labels on this stuff because it's a very sensitive topic. But it was sort of nice. It was pleasant seeing everyone having fun, everyone having a good time. You have Emmanuel and Asaf showing their allyship by like wearing drag, because as Emmanuel tells us, I already dance in high heels, so this is easy.
No, it was a really nice scene. It was also something that I feel like is important, not only just showing the support for that community, but also kind of bringing the house together ahead of what's going to come next.
Right. And so this leads to some other games that they're doing.
Huey just trying to throw it out there for everyone.
Yeah. And Callum takes a lot of offense to it because Huey's just throwing out stuff like, who's going to be the next person in elimination? Who's the most likely person to cheat on someone back home? And Callum's like shutting down in this like group setting. We have him in confessional. Like, I didn't come here to do anything. Like, young Callum wouldn't care. Like, he would be like, I'm having the best of both worlds, but I'm feeling bad about what I'm doing. And like, you see him like try to like dance around that conversation with Michelle again of like, I feel like he was trying to like almost like break up with her there. Of like, oh, like I've been vulnerable with you, but I don't know if this is the best. And Michelle's like, don't leave me high and dry. We're having fun. We're kicking it.
Yeah, this is where clearly, not great by Callum, anything to do with cheating. But as you mentioned, this isn't necessarily real life. This is reality TV. This is nothing new. But it's also nice to see that Callum isn't like a complete sociopath, like a bear that can just lie his teeth off about this and feel zero remorse whatsoever.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like, it's good for the show. It's bad for their real life, but it's good for the show. We then have this conversation, and in the room, it's Zara, Mariah, Raven, Kieran, and James just talking about like who should be going in. Like, what are your thoughts on it? And Zara's like very openly like, I want Corey in. He's a fucking snake. And Raven this time is like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Like, I learned my lesson. I will now not tell anyone anything. I will not give any hard names to people, even if the names I'm hearing are my allies. Then we had that Michelle and Callum conversation, and then we go to Nerys, Olivia, and Zara talking about Mariah. And we see James and Mariah, quote unquote, only cuddling.
Sure.
Under the sheets. They were just cuddling. But like Mariah's conflicted about what she's doing. Like, she's attracted to James. She thinks James checks like more of the boxes of what she typically looks for as opposed to Bananas. But like, she still feels an affection to Bananas, feels bad that if she does something here, like she's embarrassing him. It's not something that she would want to do in this type of setting. If she was like, oh no, like this isn't something that would work between me and Bananas, I want to be able to handle that off the show. And we see a lot of uproar on this. Is what caused so much Twitter drama between Mariah and Nerys and Olivia about like all, and like when I watched the episode after like seeing all those tweets, I'm like, y'all are blowing up over this. It's just Olivia saying like, I wouldn't do this.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that big of a deal because everyone has what they're comfortable with. For some people, it's, hey, I'm allowed to pretty much do me, do whatever I want, unless we have that relationship title. Others are, hey, if I'm maybe don't have that title, but I'm really close with someone, we've been, for better or worse terms, kind of acting couple-y, then that's crossing the line. And so I think this came down to what your definition is and just kind of how you act. Not necessarily that there's a right or a wrong, but everyone has their own definitions of when's the right time to cut everything else off.
Yeah, and so like we have the two sides here. We have Olivia who like has a relationship with Banana, or like a friendship with Bananas, like outside the show as well, after their connection on just like going through all of Ride or Dies. And so like she's backing Bananas here of like, like if I was in her position and I was dating some or seeing someone, even if it's not official terms, there's no DTR, I wouldn't put myself in a position where I'd be disrespecting my partner or whatever. Like that just wouldn't be me. Whereas you have Nerys just like, no, girl, do it. Like, I watched you in Bananas. I feel like it took you a while to open up to Bananas, where here it feels like you just like instantly opened up to James. There's obviously more connection. And the answer, and I do think, there's no right or wrong between the two paths here with how Nerys goes about it and how Olivia goes about it. But I do appreciate what Nerys says to Mariah here, who's obviously conflicted, but what her decision is. And Nerys is like, well, if you're conflicted, like, there's your answer.
That's your answer right there. Yeah.
Like, your answer is, hey, James may not be your guy, but it just means that Bananas isn't your guy either. Because if he was truly your guy, even if you didn't define the relationship, if he was your guy, you wouldn't be interested. Like you may be able to see someone as attractive, but you wouldn't be interested in pursuing anything with them. So there is your answer, is ultimately what Nerys is saying. But I will say, I do enjoy all this drama on Twitter between all of them, because it just means like you have Olivia out here being like, y'all, if you want to speak on my name outside this house as well, like you can come and check up, square up on me. I'll be waiting on the next season in the sand for you.
Yeah, no, it definitely got blown out of proportion, because then you have, I don't want to say it's anyone on the show, but it's all the fandom. Then just, because there's people that love to hate Bananas. They use it to drag his name, being like, well, he's done this in the past, so this is what he deserves. And it's just like, well, that's not a good way to look at anything either, just because someone's made a mistake in the past, so it's okay to do that to them. It's just got blown way out of proportion. But I guess we do know that Bananas was at the very least pretty smitten, because he was checking up on it. He was, I guess, talked to Huey once Huey left the house, checking in to see how she was doing. And it was out there pretty well known that with what this season was, I'm assuming it would have been Brad who wasn't going to be brought in. Like, Bananas was going to be brought in to be one of those champions, but he found out what was going on. And he said, I want no part of this, or to be a storyline. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we know, in terms of the filming schedule of it all, like we know House of Villains was filmed before.
This was already done, because
this was done.
House of Villains was done before USA.
Yeah, this was done. The Challenge USA was done, and then 39 filmed or started filming 2 weeks after. And I know a lot of people were throwing online like, well, don't you see Bananas with Anfisa and Corinne? And I'm like, well, yeah, like you're seeing flirting on there, but like you haven't
Never does
actually
anything.
You haven't seen Johnny actually do anything. And every single time Corinne brings something up, Johnny just goes, what?
Mm-hmm.
No. I have bad breath right now. I don't want to do it.
No, and I know some of the conversations that were not had with me, but were had with our fearless leader, Fairplay. But that's not for the podcast. So
it's not for the podcast. That's one personal. Day in time, maybe behind the paywall on our Q&As. So become a patron at realitypatron.com. And maybe you'll find out more about it. You'll find more tea anyway by becoming a patron and listening to that Q&A, because Johnny loves to just talk about what's going on in life and stuff that you may not be able to see firsthand.
Absolutely. Especially if you're enjoying House of Villains. When we do the House of Villains, he does it with a guest or with Matt, does their roundtable. You get a lot more behind the scenes, but you sign up to become a patron, you listen to the Q&A, you get a lot of stuff that Johnny definitely won't say that's out on a public podcast. Yes. The show.
Yeah. Okay. So this gets us to a conversation between Raven and Corey. And so Raven's really trying. She's trying not to say names, but it's so clear in this conversation that she's trying to warn Corey that he is a name without saying, oh, I was in a room with so and so, and they all are saying your name, like you are in trouble. It'd be like, so how do you feel in this game? How do you think? What do you think is gonna happen with this villain? Corey's like, well, I think everyone's just scared to say a name, and I think once the first name's said, then it'll go on. But I think really it's gonna come down to our relationships and our alliances. And then she just follows that up with so how do you feel about your alliances? How do you feel about? And she's skirting and skirting and skirting. And Corey's not reading it, and then Michelle just walks into her room, being like, "Hey, Corey, you're in trouble. Your name's going around." And then they all look at Raven "Did you know about this?" Well, yeah, I may have heard it, but I heard other names too.
Yeah, no, Raven definitely has that. She's scared. She's like, I'm not. Nope. I learned my lesson. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, what I can't say. So my response is, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah. So we get to and we also sort of have an idea in this episode that Kylan is someone that may get pulled down into elimination, because earlier in the episode when he was talking with Melissa, he mentions how, well, one, he actively says everyone in the US should just say Huey's name. And then two, he says, I'm the only person who came into the season without knowing any single other person in terms of playing a challenge season with them. So I'm no one's actual number one coming in. As much as people can say it, I know that every other person has someone that is a higher priority than I will be for them. Which we make fun of Kylan, but like he is a good game
Perceptive.
player. He
Yeah.
is very perceptive. He is good at challenges. Like he has a lot of pros to his ability to compete well on the challenge and having that awareness. Even though there may be like some parts of awareness that he's lacking because of just like how he is, but he's aware. Like he understands that like I'm someone who's gonna get called in soon just because I don't have those connections that others do.
Yeah, no, he's aware, and especially because according to Huey, there were two main people that told him, if you go in, you should call down Kyland.
Oh, who are the two people again?
Jay and Michelle.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Which is funny because like you have these people going like, oh, like you have like Horacio during the elimination be like, Jay and Kyland are my best allies in this game. Like I need them to do well. And then you have Jay be like, oh, you're gonna take Kyland out for me, Huey? Thanks, bud. Thank you.
That was such a weird. I didn't see that one coming.
But you know what?
God.
I think I did. I think prior to 39, there was a lot of like speculation on people going on to USA season 2 and 39, and a lot of people hanging out, working out together. And there was a picture that came out, and it was, I believe it was Kyland, Horacio, Monty, and Cinco from USA season 1, like all just like working out together out on the West Coast.
That makes more sense then.
So I think that's the only thing I can draw a connection to for that relationship. But also Horacio's just a nice guy. And he's like, no, Kylan's also a nice guy. I want to look out for him. But like we have an uneventful deliberation. It's just Huey again yelling about like why is his name being the one tossed around. Corey's just trying to like be very political about it. And because he is a good speaker. And then we get the circle jerk.
I was gonna say this is the guy, the dick off. Who has the bigger dick? Every guy go around, say why you're awesome and you should be here.
And this is my weekly challenge reference of if only they had Matt Bischoff there, he could have helped decide it for them.
Like, well, all right, I have my measuring tape right here. We're gonna go around.
Okay, everyone, we are having an impromptu poll control daily again, and we will decide this once and for all. No, but like besides that, like there's really nothing eventful. But the main point is you keep hearing James talk amongst the circle jerk, and you see the girls like actively being annoyed by him being the one constantly talking. So you have the USA people together, and Norris brings up, like, what if we all just vote James? And James finds out and completely loses his shit. And I once again, I love the editing of the challenge where Mariah's in confessional be like, I need, like, the girls may want James out, but I want him in. He's such a joy. He's always fun. He's very free-spirited and nice and calm. And it cuts to James. I will kill all of them and their mothers. I will put their heads on a spike. I will make their lives a living hell every single day if they so much as say my name. And I was like, oh, wow. And you look at his face, too, where you're just like, Mariah's is like, namaste. Let's be calm. And he has this face that is bright, like tomato red, like he's about to just complete roid rage.
Yeah, I think the main reason why they don't end up switching the name to James is because of Mariah. Because I know Mariah had even said that when she heard Jay call James's name, like she cornered Jay. So I think it was more of appeasing, like, okay, we don't have to go after him yet. But seeing what this elimination was, I wish James did it because you just know he would have been dead by like ball 3. Running back.
I don't know, but he told us he got brains in there. He got brains in there.
Yeah, but you could just see him just shoving the ball too hard and not having touch and finesse. That on top of all the running,
CT and just like broke it.
Well, that got him disqualified. So go for it, James.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I wish they would show us that about Mariah because like they are starting to show more Mariah and more of like her game like mind for the confessional. Obviously, there's an emotional attachment to the game talk that she's saying because it's James, um, her strictly only cuddle buddy. Um, but one problem that you see in the fandom is like we still haven't seen Mariah. We know nothing about Mariah. Mariah's not giving us anything, and like we're starting to see it. But like when you hear that stuff of like, oh, she heard Jay say James' name and cornered Jay, like, why isn't that on film? Why isn't there a camera shot of that conversation? Because I think that's a very interesting thing to show on there of just like how willing she was to go that and how much Jay backs down from that. Or and like it seems like going into this arena, Nerys is blindsided that it's not a James decision. So like was she doing all this work around Nerys and like making sure that she was outplaying Nerys? Because that's also something that would be very interesting moving forward of like the ride or die girls working together, but it seems like they're all like they all have their different pieces to the puzzle that they want to hold for themselves. So how are they outmaneuvering each other to ensure they get their agenda across?
Especially as it goes moving forward, because if you just take that, the ride or die girls, is you obviously have Mariah with James, you have Michelle with Cullum, and then or Callum or whatever, and then Raven with Kieran, which clearly Raven's at the bottom, but they're getting rid of that point where outside of, you could say, Kieran, because Raven's on the bottom, and then that's really about it. Everyone else is in the US alliance. So even if Mariah was able to hold off going for James for one vote, what are the dynamics and how does it break down moving forward? Because now it's everyone's either part of the USA alliance on the male side anyway. They're part of the USA alliance or they're linked to one of the ride or die girls. So there isn't that easy vote moving forward. So are they able to just say, okay, we need to pick off, those other guys that aren't in our alliance now? Or does that kind of blow up this USA alliance and we see fractions and how do they move forward?
For my hope, I hope we see fractions just create more tension going into future
100%.
seasons. But we see ultimately Huey goes in. There's some thrown votes here and there of like we know Huey and Corey have like reestablished trust with each other after their falling out in Spies, Lies, and Allies. They both refuse to say the other person's name. Corey has a concern of James going in because he's like, well, if James goes in, he's obviously going to pick me, the other tall and widely built dude, to go against and take each other out because we're the threats. And I'm like, oh, Corey, keep being in your world. I love this.
He's in his world. I was just happy to see that Corey didn't actually see Huey's name because after all that buildup we got of the scenes with them in this episode,
Oh,
I
like,
thought it
oh
was
my
setting up for
God.
him to say Huey's name.
I was like, please don't do this to me. But also sort of do this.
Oh, it
Like,
would have been a great TV moment
yeah,
because Huey would have lost his mind.
yeah. And then when Huey beats Corey in elimination again, that would have been even funnier. Like, oh, you really just threw it all away to lose again. Like, good job,
That would
Corey.
have been phenomenal.
If that happened, Corey's done on the challenge.
Oh yeah, there's no coming back from that.
Never comes back. But Huey ends up picking Kylan to go against. Just one, like you said, Michelle and Jay told him to. They obviously wanted him to survive over Kylan because they have trust in Huey going in because they had a relationship there. The elimination is how I roll. They each have a rotating track and 9 baskets like in fixed positions around it where you have to do one ball at a time, get them all into all 9 baskets. Whoever does that first wins. Ultimately, what we see here is Huey initially not being efficient and pretty much still not being efficient the entirety of the challenge because he wasn't like moving with the ball. He was pushing everything too hard or too softly. He wasn't doing anything. Kylan starts off very strong, but then panics a little bit when he's like messing up on one like specific basket. But we ultimately see Kylan win here. This ends Huey's time on the challenge. And Huey's someone who I feel is he ever gonna go like far in a season? No. He almost like I sort of equate him to like Preston from
I
back in the
love
day.
Preston.
Exactly. And I
Preston was
love
great.
Huey.
Yeah.
I love Huey. Like Huey's similar to Huey. Um Good personalities. You can't whatever you feel about them, like or it's specifically to Huey, like no matter what you feel about Huey, you feel something. And it's whether enjoyment or annoyance, like you feel something from seeing him on your screen or as a player, like having him in that mix. So yeah, I'm a Huey. Come back if you want.
Yeah, and he's at least he always brings something, like you mentioned, that's the best. That's all that we really want from these people on our TV screen. Is I don't necessarily need to love everyone. I don't want to love everyone. You need the people to root against, but bring some type of emotion out of me. And Huey, he's there every single episode. You never forget that, oh, that's right, Huey's on this season. It's not, sorry to throw out names, but Colleen, where when you brought her name up earlier, I was like, oh, shit, that's right. She is on this season.
Exactly. So, but this ends Huey's time. Kylan wins, but TJ makes a point to be like, as soon as my clock hits 0, chaos phase begins, and like you leave it, and you leave the episode with it being like 14 hours. So chaos is starting the next day. Which I guess he could have just said. Like, this ends the control phase. I hope you're ready to get some chaos thrown into the mix. We'll see you at the next challenge. And then just leave it at that. Because, like, I don't know. A clock doesn't mean anything to me.
No, that just definitely seems like it's more of a production side of things, of something that they just want to have going on. But we rarely saw the clock. Like maybe at the end of the episodes, we'd see a countdown, but I don't understand why you can't just have TJ announce it, but you just want this sick cutaway shot of the clock as the episode ends. Just kind of weird.
Yeah. So ultimately, we finished these 2 episodes. We removed 2 what's essentially filler from the cast. I can understand more now, even talking out loud, like why it was better to just put them both together and get these out of the way. Because now we're gonna enter the chaos phase. We are gonna have the champions coming in, starting with Jordan. And so I sort of want to finish this podcast going through like with the champions that we do have, like what type of elimination I think would be like the fun one to see them do, or like something that they are more known for. So let's start with the guys. And I'm actually gonna start with Jordan. So Dan, our Jordan specialist, or because Kylan's not here and Kylan's not able to tell us that, Jordan wins 2 eliminations and goes to the final, he only gets to do 1 here. So what type of elimination should Jordan be doing?
Well, I feel offended. I will run circles around Kylan on my Jordan knowledge, but whatever. So, I mean, to my knowledge, the only, I guess, specific elimination that he's won twice has been with the sledgehammer. He did it in X's 2 with the one against Zach and John A. It was him and Sarah won. And then he did the same thing against Theo in World of Worlds 2. Now, Jordan's coming back. I'm not saying bring back a sledgehammer. I think that's just the 2 that he's done that pop out. But I think you need to have something where it's an endurance / strategic type of game. Like probably the one that people remember the most of Jordan's dominance was the tug of war against Josh, was where he just showed how smart he is and how, despite, having one hand being smaller, he's going to find some way to turn the challenge into his advantage. So I don't know if I have like a specific, this is the challenge that Jordan should do, but I think it needs to be honestly something like he only really did it that once with the Nisa, but something with a rope and like kind of like a not so fast type game. I think that's built for Jordan.
So you say that. The only reason why I'm going to say otherwise is the next person is CT, and everyone wants to CT do a hall brawl or a headbanger. CT needs to do not so fast.
He's the one that did break it because we were seeing it every season, and they took probably 5-6 seasons off from doing it. because of his performance against Darrell. So that's fair.
Yeah. Bring him back to do like a puzzle endurance challenge. That's his wheelhouse. Like you either do that or like something that is like physical with puzzles, like because he's always been great with puzzles, rarely loses those. Like for Darrell,
So
I would
I
say
think
balls in.
I was going to say just with those two, I completely agree with Darrell. I think that's the perfect challenge for him. A balls in or a pole wrestle. I feel like you could do either with him. But I think without naming a specific one, you're right. With CT, it should be an endurance like puzzle. And I know it's somewhat similar. I feel like Jordan should be an endurance strategy, which I get are
Mhm.
kind of very similar, but there's ways that you can differentiate it. But I think with Jordan, with his, I mean, he's the endurance man. He's the one that if he gets to the final, as long as he doesn't have a Nisa strapped to his back, he's going to win. And it's because of his endurance. I feel like it has to be something endurance related.
Yeah. And then for Brad, I'm not sure. Like for me, I lean towards picking something more physical where it's like I think in All Stars he did the one where it was like this demolish the house and like throw it, but like get everything out through like the little keyhole.
Yeah.
Or I could see him doing like the wall climb
The wall climb. I think
competition.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some. I think his two most impressive wins were the one against Landon, which that was, I think it was called like back up off me or whatever, where you had to get a hook off their back, like it was stuck to like a carabiner on the back of a harness, and then get it to yours. And then he beat Big Easy in a pole wrestle, would be the two that come to mind for Brad. But
See,
it
I'm
definitely has to
not
be
gonna.
something physical.
So like I was trying to hold competitions away, but I think I'm okay with repeats. So like if we go over to the women, like Laurel balls in,
Yes.
like that's her thing. Kara pole wrestle or whatever equivalent that you have of it.
Hmm.
Um or or a puzzle because she's shown like in her later part of her challenge career that like that no longer was a weakness for her.
No, she's very good at puzzles.
Sorry, I forgot Devin shows up here. Light bright.
Oh wait, shit. Devin does show up. I
Yeah,
forgot
light
about
bright.
Devin. Right.
Connects four. Tic tac toe.
Uh,
Brain teasers.
does
Drinking a
that
beer.
so does that mean that we have an uneven number? Is there a
I
fifth?
think we do.
Okay, so it's 5 and 4.
I think so.
All right,
Yeah, because we have Laurel, Casey, Kara, and
Tori.
and Tori for sure
Hmm.
on that list. And it may just be that we're forgetting a fifth girl, but I know Devin shows up there. We know Brad does. We know Darrell, CT, and Jordan.
Jordan, yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we're just forgetting someone. Maybe it's just uneven. Um, maybe they had a fifth woman, but based off how the season was going, they didn't end up needing that fifth elimination.
Hmm.
We don't know. But yeah, so Laurel balls in. Her athletic background fits to that. Cara Maria the Grit, I would want to see her do like the ring / pole wrestle. Um, Casey, you could do that straight up like the basically the reverse tug of war, like endurance challenge where
Yeah.
you're with the no slack and you just have to keep inching and inching. And then Tori is just like you could give her a headbanger, like
Hall brawl.
you can give her hall brawl.
Mhm.
Um something that's like more headbanger and but she also showed in USA that she was getting better with her the mental puzzles of it all. So you could
She
also give that
was.
to her.
I know, but I think, and if they don't want to do a hall brawl, like if they want to save that for an elimination between, two of the challengers, I think even doing an elimination like the one that she beat John A in USA 2 would be a good one
Oh,
for her.
for sure. Yeah. Something like that too. Like collecting stuff while still being physical about it. Yeah. Essentially what we're saying is be physical. That's
No,
the whole
yeah.
point of the eliminations. I don't need light bright. Not the light
Are
bright that
you
we had here.
sure?
You know which one I'm talking about.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. That was
Yeah.
one of the worst eliminations. But
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I'm saying it should be Devin should be like drinking a beer while holding an unlit broken wet cigarette, or pulling skulls out of a bag.
He was really good at that. Or even their only elimination win him and Tori had last year, who was like, hey, this is the same puzzle as my coffee table.
Yeah. The coffee table elimination. But I like just having that idea so then I can be disappointed when I see what the actual eliminations are. But that wraps up our coverage here for episodes 3 and 4 of The Challenge, Season 39, Battle for a New Champion. As always, we'll be here throughout the week doing Survivor coverage after the episode airs, House of Villains coverage, whether it be a roundtable or an interview with Johnny and one of the other people from House of Villains. We have our stuff on the Patreon for on realitypatreon.com with our weekly Q&A and Australian Survivor rewatch, except for Matt, who's watching it for the first time. They're on Brains vs. Brawn right now. And go to survivortix.com or villaintix.com to go get tickets for all of Johnny's watch parties for Survivor and House of Villains that he's having throughout the rest of the season as we go into the winter. But that's everything from my end, Dan.
Yeah, no, we did it. We got through the control phase of this podcast, and I think we're ready for a little bit of I think we're ready for a little bit of chaos. And hell, we're starting with Jordan, so I'll be pumped up for next week.
Oh, we know you'll be pumped up. But we'll be back next week. We might be just making Sundays our norm for this specific season. We'll let everyone know, of course, and we'll have it up on our YouTube scheduled when we know for sure. It'll either be Sunday mornings or Fridays afternoon after Dan and I are done with our work week. But stick with us. We'll be back next week to cover the chaos of The Challenge. See y'all next time.
Can't wait.